Okay, we're back for part 2 of Guru's Rants MMA BJJ Muay Thai versus Pencak Silat and Kuntao. Like I was saying before in the other video, that what separates Silat and Kuntao from other arts, for the sport arts, is that we emphasize an equal amount of attention to blades and weaponry. And when I say Silat and Kuntao, it is my belief that Filipino martial art comes from Silat and Kuntao. It's also my belief, through my own history research, that Nimpo, ninjutsu from Japan, comes from Kuntao. If you look at a lot of the Japanese arts, a lot of them go back to White Crane Kung Fu, and a lot of them go back to Taoist practices. Again, through the Silk Road and through trade and through all kinds of different exchanges. And that's another subject. I'll make a video about how ninjutsu is related to Silat and Kuntao. But again, the subject that we're talking about today is MMA, Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu versus Silat and Kuntao. If a Silat man was to go in the ring, he would probably lose against a BJJ guy or an MMA guy or a Muay Thai guy, unless he really trained Pukulan. If he trained Pukulan, he would give those guys a run for his money, because a real Pukulan guy is basically a bare-knuckle boxer. And if you've ever watched bare-knuckle boxing, those guys know how to throw down. While the MMA guy and the Muay Thai guy and the kickboxing guy is training with gloves, 14-ounce gloves, 16-ounce gloves, the Silat and Kuntao man is constantly developing internally his fists and his palms and his fingertips. Where those guys use heavy bags and pads, we're using trees, poles, metal poles, concrete, sandbags, bricks, oddly shaped stones, metal pipes, and we use those to condition the body, condition different parts of the body so that you can hit hard without any issue or hurting your body. So if I'm hitting my steering wheel, it doesn't hurt me, basically. I can hit a piece of metal. In fact, my teacher, Uncle Willem de Toires, Babak Willem de Toires, is known for hitting dumpsters and making the dumpsters move 1.5 inches away from his punch. And mind you, the dumpsters are filled with stones. So imagine if a man like Uncle Willem de Toires punched somebody in the liver or in the kidney or in the pubic bone or in the throat. Okay? So in the ring, the Silat and Kuntao guy would probably lose because we're not used to wearing gloves, and we don't play by the rules that are set up in a UFC type thing. Maybe in the old UFC, but in the old UFC we only saw one Silat guy who got his ass kicked in the first round. I would have liked to have seen a Silat guy conditioned in the same way that most MMA guys are conditioned, and then would have seen what would have happened. But again, the thing with Silat, why it doesn't work against those things in the ring, is because we're taught to hit the groin, the throat, the armpits, the glands, the nervous system, the anatomical regions. We're taught to go for the eyes, we're taught to rip out eyeballs, and we're taught to go for the ears. We're taught to go for arteries, and we're taught to cut. I will not mention names, but one of my teachers, Guru Richard Crab de Boards, my Harimau teacher, went ahead and sparred with a very famous Jeet Kune Do guy. I'm not going to name any names, because this person has a habit of suing people instead of doing things the old way. Anyhow, Guru de Boards put this man in the hospital, broke his knee, and with his thumbnail cut him and basically affected his liver with a liver hit. We're not going to name any names, but he's a famous guy that does seminars and makes a lot of money, and also claims to teach Silat. And I actually trained with him for a while when I didn't know anything more about Silat, when I was a noob or a beginner, and I thought that this guy was it. But it wasn't until I got into the deeper circles of Silat to find out that this guy was the equivalent of most seminar guys. They just videotape and never really train. Anyhow, he had his ass handed to him on a plate. He ended up in the hospital, and Guru DeBoards drew blood on him with his hands. So if this was the ring, none of that would have been allowed. Okay? This guy had to get knee surgery. So the reality is, a Silat player or Kuntao player is looking to survive at all costs. And if that means that the other person loses an eye, well, so be it. You know, if that means that the other person gets a weapon pulled on them, that's the Silat mentality. You know, it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to train that way. But that's jungle warfare. There's no rules. Okay? Now, I will say this. There's a lot of benefit to training things like kickboxing and sport martial art because you get a great conditioning, a great cardio. They do emphasize endurance training. Some people say that they emphasize getting strong, but I can tell you this because I do strength train and I do powerlifting. They're strong, but they're not as strong as they could be compared to most real strongmen. There are some Kuntao players and some Silat players that are very, very strong because they train externally and internally. Some of them do the old methods where they train with heavy stones, heavy sandbags. And some of them have incorporated, like myself, barbell training and using heavy objects when we do our training. So, I think the time has come where we will probably see eventually some type of Silat in the ring. In fact, if you look at Machida, I think his name was, he was starting to do things that look like Silat. He was using some karate, Okinawan karate, and sweeps and things like that that look a lot like Silat. And he was pulling it off in the ring. I think it's possible. However, here's the problem. When you train sport martial art and you do that kind of training, you're programming your body to exchange and to dance around and to, you know, I give one, he gives one type of thing. And then you start losing the mindset of survival at all costs and taking the guy out as fast as you can. If you talk to any of the old-time Silat players and old-time teachers, they tell you it should last no more than 5 seconds. If in 5 seconds you haven't done what you need to do, you need to get out of there and regroup. Okay? So it's a very blitzing type mentality. And that's why I believe that a Silat guy, if he's really serious about Silat and Kuntao, should not be training the sport. Now, the argument that most people say is, well, Silat guys don't spar. Well, it depends who you're training with. You know, I know Guru DeBoards makes his black belts do some pretty intense stuff. I know my group, we do a lot of knife sparring and we'll do a lot of weaponry sparring. And sometimes we do some empty hand sparring as well. There's a lot of drills that are done where you take it very close to the edge. However, we never go so far that you can't go to work the next day because people have jobs and people live in the Western world. What's the purpose of hurting your training partners so that they can't go to work the next day? That's bullshit, you know? I've got a couple chipped teeth. I've had eye surgery. I've had dislocated shoulders. I've had cracked ribs. It happens. But you don't have to train that way. Once you learn how to train, you can train smart without hurting yourself. And that's the other point I'm going to bring up. If you look at Silat and Kuntao men and women who really train, they train even into their old age. Like Babak Willem de Toires, he's in his 80s and he still moves better than most young people in their 20s and 30s. He's been doing 70 years of martial arts. He still jumps 5 feet in the air. He still does box jumps with an 80-pound kettlebell. So, if you train smart, you train long, and you train for a long time. But if you train quickly, and you go always 100 miles an hour, you're going to burn out your engine and burn out your vehicle. And that's what I see in a lot of the MMA and sports stuff. A lot of my friends that started martial arts at the same time with me, I'm 40 and I'm stronger now than I was in my 18 years of age. I can lift 2 times my body weight, okay? I can squat 2 times my body weight. And I know people my age that now have knee problems, spine problems, back problems, and they started out with kickboxing and submission stuff, and now they're having back surgery and knee surgery. That stuff has a shelf life. If you train incorrectly, you have a shelf life, and usually that stuff, by the time you hit 35, 40, you cannot take those concussions and those types of sparring where you're putting all the headgear in the mouthpiece and doing that every day. No, you're going to end up with some kind of contusion and concussion and joint problems and all kinds of other issues. But if you train smart, and you strength train, and you do the internal and the external, you will live longer, you will be healthier, and you'll be able to train way past your golden years, and you'll move at that age still better than the young guys. So Silat and Kuntao is like a fine glass of wine or a bottle of wine. It takes years to make it right. The other argument is people say, well, in MMA you learn how to fight sooner. Well, it depends who you're training with. If you train with somebody that knows how to throw down and street fight, you're going to learn how to fight, you know. I know that the way we train, we put a very heavy emphasis on a lot of strengthening the legs and strengthening the limbs and strengthening the bones so that we can take a hit and we can give a hit. And a lot of people aren't used to that. I've had guys that they're phenomenal at Muay Thai and they can kick the shit out of the heavy bags and the pads and all this stuff, but they haven't done the bone conditioning that an internal player has done. So when we hit them with the knuckles to the bones, they're in pain. Some Muay Thai guys do have that. The ones that know how to train their shins and train their elbows and their forearms, they get it. So not all Muay Thai is created equal. I think there are some really good Muay Thai people that know what the hell they're doing. And Muay Thai, I have a lot of respect for because I believe it was part of the Majapahit Empire. It became a sport, but originally, what it was originally came from was a type of Silat, what they call Ramui. It's a type of Silat from Siam. It's the same family type thing. In fact, if you look at Minangkabau Silat and Muay Thai, they're very similar. The structures are similar, the postures are similar, the strikes are the same. We all have all these strikes, you know, the same movements. Even in Sarak, we have the same Thai kick. The difference is we don't launch it higher than the thigh. We keep the kicks from the thigh lower. Maybe we'll kick you in a kidney or something like that, but the kicks are kept contained at a range where it's harder for you to block. Anyhow, with that being said, I respect all martial arts. I think they're all good. They all have a value. If you like Muay Thai, you like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you like 10th Planet, you like combat submission wrestling, then go and train it and enjoy it and train the hell out of it and become the best at it. If you like Pencak Silat or Kuntao, find a real teacher and train the old way. Find somebody who can teach you the methods that were known as the backyard methods or kitchen Silat. In the old days, it was not taught in dojos. It was taught in people's living rooms, kitchens, and backyards. Anyhow, hope that's good. I hope you learned something. Please subscribe to my videos if you like it. Click like if you like it. And if you don't like it,